The video games cause violent argument continues, both in the UK and in India, where apparently you can be jailed for it because playing them might cause you to become addictive or violent or something along those lines. Why can't this argument just die already? Why can't people just move on to talk about something else instead of harping on this point constantly? This and more news on my now officially titled News and Opinion segment, Screencapped. But before you get to the news, I want to say thank you so much for liking and sharing my videos, subscribing and following my channel, and supporting me through PayPal, Patreon, and many other means. Links down below. Also, huge thanks to J. Ray and Foxius Hound for the pledges on Patreon. You guys are fantastic. How many times do we have to talk about this ancient question? Do video games cause violence in real life? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, is no. We have many statistics and studies to show that violent video games actually correlate to the decrease of violent crime. So if violent video games cause people to become violent, and video games are the most profitable entertainment media ever, then we should logically see an increase, right? But no, there isn't one, and yet this narrative is being perpetuated once again thanks to the numbnuts on the UK. According to an article from The Independent, Diane Abbott says hardcore pornography and video games partly to blame for surge in violent crime. I just think some young people, the video games they play, the stuff they see online, it may desensitize them to violence. Now, I'm not too familiar with UK politics, but is this really the aforementioned Diane Abbott? That face is exactly how I'd picture a moral guardian's face. She looks like your annoying nanny telling you that you should stop playing online games and go outside or something. The Shadow Home Secretary said that boys as young as 8 were accessing online pornography and suggested that exposure to extreme imagery could partly to blame for violent crime. I wouldn't say that's the main cause of violent crime. I would say the main causes are really economic and to do with what's happening in the education system. Those two things have nothing to do with video games, but you said video games anyway because I honestly don't know. Another thing that she argued is violent and hardcore pornography was a contributing factor, particularly with young children viewing extreme content online. I think there's something wrong with the parents of these children for allowing them to view violent and hardcore pornography, but that's just my old traditional thinking. Maybe I'm not too educated with the new progressive way of parenting, such as leaving your son on your home with the oven on. The Hackney North MP said, "You got your smartphone. You can see stuff you could have never seen at that age." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have parents. But this is 2019 after all, and in this progressive age, our parenting responsibility should be put aside and dumped into the garbage bin and to never be seen again. Normally, you would have to have gone to a news agency and they would have said, "I'm not selling you that. You're only 8. Go away." What a horrendous issue. I'm in a really troubling dilemma. If only I can just not give my children smartphones. There's an argument that exposure to hardcore pornography is connected with violence. I wouldn't say that's the main thing. That's a threat and it's something that's there. Yeah, keep trying, Charlie. I think you'll find that link next to the paper trails leading to the unicorn's existence. I love how The Independent debunks the claim immediately, embedding their article amongst the paragraph of BS. The article links a research from the Oxford Internet Institute, which finds that there are no relationships between aggressive behaviors in teenagers and the amount of time spent playing violent video games. There's this and many articles and studies showing that there are no links between violent video games and violent crime. I'm just astonished that there are still doofuses out there who still believe this garbage. Or maybe they don't actually believe this garbage and they just want to follow the brand new progressive ways of parenting, like telling the school to not ask your kids complicating questions because God forbid we have these kids to think for themselves. Can I just ask the people in the UK, what's going on with your politicians? Do you remember that Rape Day video game that I talked about in my last video? I talked about how that game is just shovelware trash and Steam is being really inconsistent on their all games are fine policy to the point where everyone is just really sick of it. Bristol MP Debonair calls for stricter rules in light of horrible Rape Day video game. God freaking damn it, UK. Questions have been raised about how and why this game was allowed to be developed in the first place. Don't worry, Bristol MP and the parties concerned, the developers will answer these questions for you. Hopefully you're not a web designer because his website is still designed on basic HTML. My favorite answer is because this game dev wants this game to be remembered remembered and discussed by many. Congratulations, Bristol MP, you just made this game more famous than it needs to be. Now, I understand that you're a bunch of moral guardians, and I understand that you have a bunch of moral arguments regarding this game, but I'm telling you that the moment you throw a tantrum on the existence of this game for its sexual violence towards fictional women, you're only bringing more attention to this game. Nobody would have known about this game if you just shut your mouths up, because this game is not even made to be discovered by the public users anyway, as only Steam users are able to find this game. But no, you have to throw a hissy fit. You have to be morally outraged and tell people that this game should be banned. The Streisand effect is pretty much on display here, and unfortunately, these individuals are unable to keep their emotions in check to do something more logical and sensible for their goals.
Thankfully, Rape Day has been withdrawn by the distributors, but it is shocking that a misogynistic game like this was even considered by the developers, let alone produced by teams of skilled programmers. Worse still, there is nothing in law to stop another company producing a similar game in the future.
Yes, and it should stay that way. You are advocating for a law to prevent games with content that you personally don't like. There are much worse video games out there being sold to the public and selling really damn well, with billions of players still playing to this day, and there's still no link between games and violent crime. I am tired of repeating myself, but these people are very freaking persistent. Of course none of these people are gamers, they're just politicians and normies who know jack squat about video games. But hey, these politicians are morally outraged by video games. Let's take it up a notch and have politicians to be upset with random trolls on the internet. No, really, check this out. Brianna Wu calls for government legislation in response to negative Captain Marvel reviews. Government legislation for not liking a film. What a time to live in. The entire thing was on video, but I'm just gonna show you Bounding Into Comics highlights. At first, Brianna compared this to Ghostbusters. Anytime a woman steps forward and tries to put her toe in the water for a male-dominated field, we're right back there. Ah, yes, because that's exactly the reason why people have problems with the new Wonder Woman film or Alita Battle Angel. I don't really care much about the hoopla surrounding Captain Marvel, and yet people just keep roping me back into it. Here's an article from The Verge stating that YouTube fought the Brie Larson trolls by changing the search algorithm. Apparently, if you search Brie Larson on YouTube, the very first few search results would be videos telling people to boycott Brie Larson and Marvel Studios. I admit that some of these videos are pretty gratuitous. I mean, telling people to boycott Brie Larson and Marvel Studios, I think that's a bit too much. But the fact that you have to modify the algorithm so that the mainstream media news sources come into the top shows a really nice potential for misleading people with fake news. Not saying that the alternative media isn't capable of fake news, but the mainstream media sure as hell is. Anyway, going back to Brianna Wu's madness, she continues by saying that Washington has a role to play in what women face in the tech industry. What kind of role would you think the government has in online trolls making videos criticizing the film? A freaking gulag? Apparently she wants something similar to the ESRB and having regulations on freaking online conversations. We already have YouTube demonetizing our videos left and right and forcing people to censor their curse words just to get monetized. We don't need any further government regulations because YouTube is doing an amazing job at it.
People in tech just want someone in Washington that understands their issues, that they could have a conversation about, whether it's from cybersecurity, harassment, trying to launch IPOs. I come from that field, so I understand these things. So I think they're just looking for technological literacy.
I don't even know what she's talking about at that point, but one thing I do know is that her call on government legislation is absolute BS and should never be implemented. But hey, at least you don't have to witness her campaign video. That brings back a lot of memories. Anyway, let's get back to violent video games because India has recently banned PUBG Mobile to the point where you could be jailed for playing it in some Indian cities. That would bring up some awkward conversations in the jail cell. I was jailed because I played a very popular mobile game. Yes, didn't you know? Playing a very popular mobile game is a crime that is about as heinous as murder, pedophilia, and pirating video games. Apparently, the reason for the ban is because the game is addictive and harmful to children. Just goes to show you the quality of Indian parenting. They had to ask the police officers to ban this sick filth because the kids can't stop playing them. There's even a freaking law made for it. Apparently, if you play the game and you cause annoyance, you'll be punished with simple imprisonment, which extends to a month, or with fine, which may extend to 200 rupees. Let's see, 200 rupees to US. I really do want to live in a universe where I can just jail someone for annoying me because the law won't be used against me at all. No, really, they won't. Policemen have been exempted from this ban as they need to play the game to investigate. Also, educational and research institutions have been exempted from this ban. Oh, those moral guardian hypocrites. I too would like to play games that are punishable by law for the sake of investigation or research for academic purposes, you see. Apparently, these investigations and research are done to highlight specifics about the game, inciting violent behaviors among players. Considering that we've already had investigations and research showing that there are no links between violent video games and violent behavior, I am pretty confident that these investigators and researchers are merely sitting on their asses and playing these banned video games or watching porn, because I heard they're banned there too. And of course, many people, including Indians, are not very happy about it. I mean, how could you be happy about this? You're on the verge of being jailed for a month or fined $2. But hey, at least your government is not saying something along the lines of the gays caused the tsunami.